لا تقم فيه أبدا. Do not stand for prayer within it ever. The Prophet ﷺ is being commanded, he's being prohibited rather, that لا تقم. تقم is from the root letters قاف واو ميم. إقامة. What does إقامة mean? إقامة الصلاة, establishing the prayer. And qiyam is to stand in prayer. So لا تقم, do not stand in prayer, فيه, in it, abadan, ever. What does abadan mean? It gives a meaning of emphasis. That at no point, for no time, you should never stand in that masjid to pray. Why? Because la masjidun, surely that masjid. Which masjid? Ussisa, which was founded. Ussisa from the root letters Hamza, Sin, Sin. Assasa yu'assisu ta'sis is to establish, to found, to set up something. From the same root is the word asas, and asas is the foundation. Surah Al-Fatiha is also called Asasul Quran, the foundation of Quran. So that masjid, which was ussisa, which was founded ala taqwa, upon taqwa, meaning on the fear of Allah, min awwali yawmin, from the first day. Meaning, from the first day, from the day that the construction of that masjid began. It was based on what? It was founded on what? Taqwa. Which masjid is this referring to? The masjid of Quba. The masjid of Quba. That masjid is ahaqqu. It is more deserving, an taquma fihi, that you stand in it to pray. When you go to Quba, never go and pray in the masjid that the munafiqeen had constructed. In fact, he was told to demolish that masjid. Where was the Prophet ﷺ required to pray? The masjid which was founded on taqwa from the first day. From the first day of its construction. What does it mean by taqwa of Allah in this context? In this context, what does it mean by the fear of Allah? That the reason behind constructing that masjid was what? So that people would pray. People would pray. It wasn't to create division amongst people. It wasn't out of competition against others. It was out of fear of Allah. It was out of establishing salah, that we have to establish salah. Why do we have to establish salah? Because of the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it was built for the benefit of Muslims, for the benefit of Islam. No brick was laid, no hole was dug, except that there was taqwa present in the hearts of those people who were constructing that masjid. So this masjid deserves that you stand in it to pray. Fihi rijalun. In it are men. Which men is this referring to? The believers, the Ansar. In it are men. Which men? Yuhibbuna, they love. An yatatahharu, that they obtain purity. That they purify themselves. And because of this reason, you should pray with them. You should not pray with those people who have a marad in their hearts. Who should you pray with? Those who purify themselves. Wallahu yuhibbul muttahhirin, and Allah loves those people who purify themselves. In this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala advises the Prophet ﷺ that he must not support the masjid which has been built for division, which has been built for fasad, which has been built for the purpose of kufr. He should not support that masjid. And in this is also a lesson for us. That if there is a masjid, if there is a center, if there is an institute, if there is an organization, if there is a book that is written, anything that is done, but in competition to the one that was before, then it is not correct for us to support such people. It is not correct, because the Prophet ﷺ was told not to support such people. How do we know? The fact is that if that masjid was constructed without a valid reason, what could be a valid reason for constructing the masjid? As we discussed earlier, that perhaps the first masjid It's becoming small for those people who are praying over there. And it cannot fulfill the growing needs of the community. Similarly, if it is constructed out of stubbornness, to give way to sectarianism, then it's proper that a person does not pray in that masjid. He does not support that masjid. Instead, who should be supported? Who should be supported? Those who do their work based on taqwa. Min awwali yawmin, from the first day. They don't do it in competition. Why do they do it? Out of taqwa. So the Prophet ﷺ has commanded that instead of praying in Masjid al-Dirar, it's known as Masjid al-Dirar. Which masjid? The one that the munafiqeen constructed. Where should he pray? In Masjid Quba, because it is more worthy. How is it more worthy? Firstly, because it was founded on taqwa. لَمَسْجِدٌ أُسِّسَ عَلَى التَّقْوَى, upon taqwa. So it was founded on taqwa, on the fear of Allah. There wasn't some other motive. Secondly, the second reason as to why it is more worthy is because it was built first. Min awwali yawmin, from the first day it was based on taqwa. It was constructed first, and there is also more reward for praying in that masjid. What is that more reward? We learned that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Salatun fi masjidi Quba'in ka'umrah." Praying in Masjid Quba is like performing an umrah. Meaning you get the same reward. Which is why many times when people visit Medina, they also make sure they visit this masjid. Because praying in that masjid is a source of great reward. Imagine, equivalent to another umrah. So because there is so much reward for praying in that masjid, therefore, it is more worthy that you pray over there. And the third reason as to why you should pray in that masjid is because in it are those people who are clean. People who love to purify themselves, who love to clean themselves. يَتَطَهَّرُ is from tatahur, from the root letters طَهَرَ. What does the word tahara mean? Cleanliness, purity. Are you almost done with your Kitab al-Tahara? Kitab al-Tahara. What does tahara mean? Cleanliness, purity. And when the word tahara is used with tazkiyah, when the word tahara is used with tazkiyah in the same context, then tahara gives a sense of physical purification and tazkiyah gives a sense of spiritual purification. However, when the word tahara is used by itself, the word tazkiyah does not appear with it. And the word tahara can be used in both ways. Physical purification as well as spiritual purification. So in it are people who love to purify themselves. Meaning they love to purify themselves, their physical bodies, their clothes, their surroundings. And they also love to purify themselves from sin, from disobedience. So, because such people populate this masjid, it is your duty that you must go and pray there. Now the question is that why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention this trait in particular? It could have been said that they do a lot of dhikr, they pray salah on time, they pray salah regularly. But of all the qualities that those people possessed, the quality of tahara is mentioned. Why? Because when a person stays clean, when a person purifies himself in the physical sense, then what happens? He is able to pray with more khushu', with more concentration. The quality of his good deed improves automatically. It improves. It becomes much better. Because just imagine, if you pray after brushing your teeth, there's no foul odor coming out of your mouth. Will you be able to concentrate better? Of course, you will feel fresh, you will feel good. However, if you pray Fajr without even brushing your teeth, you will want to finish your salah as quickly as possible so that you can go and take a shower and clean yourself. So when you clean yourself, immediately it improves the quality of your good deed. And if you don't clean yourself, then it does not just affect your good deeds, but it also affects other people. And this is not just physical purification, but also the purification of the mind as well as the heart. That when a person cleans himself constantly of grudges, of bad feelings, only then is he able to focus. Otherwise, even in prayer, what will he be thinking of? What so-and-so said to him. What so-and-so should not have said to him. What they did to him. Whereas if a person is constantly cleaning his heart, then he is better able to focus in salah. The Prophet ﷺ, he said to the Ansar once, especially the people of Quba, that in the story about your masjid, Allah the Exalted has praised you concerning the purification that you perform. What is the purification that you perform? What do you do to purify yourselves? So they said, by Allah, O Allah's Messenger, we do not know except that we had neighbors from the Yahud who used to use water to wash with after answering the call of nature. And we washed as they used to wash. Meaning every time we used the washroom, what would we do? We would wash ourselves. You may wonder, what's the big deal? But for people who are living in the desert, where water is scarce, washing yourself every time is a big deal. It's a big deal. Because water is very scarce, and it's difficult to get hold of water. And typically, what would people do? They would use mud in order to clean themselves. And that is also sufficient to clean yourself after answering the call of nature, after using the bathroom, as long as there is no najasa left on the body. However, it's much better that a person washes himself, meaning he uses water to clean himself. And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say over here? That Allah loves those people who clean themselves. So if we want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to love us, then what do we have to do? What do we have to do? We have to keep ourselves clean, physically as well as spiritually. So the first thing that we learn is that when using the washroom, what should we make sure? That we wash ourselves. Sometimes using toilet paper would be sufficient to just remove the najasa. However, removing the najasa is not enough. What do we have to do? We also have to wash ourselves. Because that is what completely purifies a person. Secondly, we must also make sure that we do not leave any impurity in ourselves. What do we generally think? That impurity is dirt. We think that mud is impurity. However, mud is not impurity. We make sure that there is no mark on our faces, on our clothes. But when it comes to really cleaning ourselves of filth, sometimes we become negligent. We become careless. We don't save ourselves sometimes from the sprinkles of urine. And if a person is not careful about that, protecting himself from the sprinkles of urine, then there is adab al-qabr, there is punishment of the grave, as you may have learned in Kitab al-Tahara. Similarly, cleanliness, it also brings a person closer to Allah. And as we discussed earlier, that negligence, what does it do? It causes disruption in worship. If you look at it earlier, we learned about Ibrahim a.s. What was he told? That antahira bayti. That both of you, you should clean my house. For who? لِلطَّائِفِينَ وَالْعَاكِفِينَ وَالرُّكَّعِ السُّجُودِ. For those people who come and worship in the Kaaba, around the Kaaba. Whether it is tawaf, or it is i'tikaf, or it is ruku' or sujood, any kind of worship, make sure that you clean the masjid for them. Because if the masjid, if our bodies are not clean, then that uncleanliness is going to create a disruption in our khushu', in our concentration, in our focus. We learned that Imam Ahmad, he recorded that one of the companions of the Messenger ﷺ, he said that once the Prophet ﷺ led them in Fajr prayer. And he recited Surah Al-Rum. What did he recite? Surah Al-Rum. And while he was reciting, he made a few mistakes in the recitation. So when he finished the prayer, the Prophet ﷺ said, we sometimes make mistakes in reciting the Qur'an. There are people among you who attend the prayer with us, but do not perform wudu perfectly. There are people among us who pray with us, but what do? They don't perform wudu perfectly. Therefore, whoever attends the prayer with us, let him make perfect wudu. Because if your tahara is not correct, what's going to happen? It's going to invalidate your salah. And its negative effects are not just going to be on you, but they're also going to be on who? On the rest of the people. Imagine, because there were some people who had not performed their wudu perfectly, the Prophet ﷺ's prayer was getting affected. Now many times it happens that we're praying and we forget, was it the second rak'ah or the third rak'ah? Similarly, it happens many times with us that we forget to do our homework. Sister Maryam tells us about the homework. She writes it, she sends an email, but still what happens, many people, they show up in class, oh, we forgot. We forgot there was an assignment due today. We forgot there was a homework due today. What's the reason behind this forgetfulness? Perhaps it is because we're not cleaning ourselves the way we should. Perhaps it's because we're not cleaning ourselves the way we should. So we need to check ourselves. Are we physically clean? Are we cleaning our bodies physically, regularly, on a regular basis? And sorry for my bluntness, but this is a part of our religion. And we have to make sure that we are clean, physically. That all the unnecessary, unwanted hair from the body are removed. Because it's not permissible for a person to not clean himself past 40 days. So we need to check ourselves. Similarly, we need to check ourselves. Are our nails trimmed? Are they clean or not? Or are we growing them unnecessarily? Just in the name of fashion. But in reality, they're keeping a lot of dirt for us. Keeping a lot of najasa. Affecting our ibadah. Affecting the quality of our worship. Affecting our recitation. Our memorization of the lesson. Similarly, we need to check, how often do we shower? Is it just once a week? Only when we're stinking a lot and people are telling us, go shower? We should shower regularly, clean ourselves regularly. We need to check our clothes as well. When did we last wash them? How clean are our mouths? How clean are our tongues? The Prophet ﷺ regularly cleaned his mouth. He used to regularly use the miswak. And we think brushing our teeth just once in the morning and once before bed is sufficient. It's not sufficient. We need to regularly clean our mouth as well. Similarly, when we do wudu, do we make sure that none of the body parts are left dry? Or do we just quickly run through wudu, whiz through it, and ignore the elbows as well as the ankles? We need to make sure. Similarly, our house, the place that we live in, is that clean? Is that clean? Our closets, our cabinets, the places where we cook, the places where we eat, the places where we sit and study, the places in which we sit and drive, our cars, are they clean or are they dirty? Because many times we think that when it comes to religion, you just need to focus on doing your dhikr and your salah and your Qur'an and that's it. Forget about cleanliness. At-tuhur shatrul iman. Cleanliness is half of faith. And we learn over here that Wallahu yuhibbul muttahirin. Allah loves those people who keep clean. Allah loves those people who keep clean. There are people who are extremely busy with their work. But still you will find that they live in a clean fashion. They live in a clean manner. Their houses are clean. And I'm sure none of us are as busy as them. I've seen with my own eyes people who are extremely busy, more than anyone amongst us over here. But you will never find their rooms dirty. You will never find their closets dirty. You will never find their carpets dirty. Never. It's a lifestyle thing. If you like cleanliness, you will keep your house clean, you will keep yourself clean regardless of how busy you are. Because it becomes a second nature. It becomes a second nature. But if it's not a habit, then what happens? Cleaning becomes a big chore, a big burden on some people. And if we remember that Wallahu yuhibbul muttahirin, Allah loves those people who keep clean, then keeping our bodies clean, our houses clean will become much easier. Because it's going to be another way of earning the closeness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of earning the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we need to focus on this as well. Keeping ourselves our bodies, our houses, our beds, our carpets, our prayer mats, our cars. We need to keep all of these places clean. Because if we stay clean, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will love us. And if Allah will love us, then remember that hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said that when Allah loves a slave, He calls Jibreel. And He says to him, I love so and so. So you also love him. And then Jibreel loves him as well. Then Jibreel announces in the heavens saying, Allah loves so and so, so love him. And then the inhabitants of the heavens, what do? They also love that person. And then the people on the earth also begin to love him. But if a person is not clean, if he stays dirty, if he does not clean his mouth, if he does not clean his body, then what happens? People avoid such people. If you don't keep your house clean, would you want to call people over? Would you want anybody to come over to your house? No. Eventually what's going to happen? You're going to become distant. You're going to feel alone. There are stories of people who don't clean their houses, who hoard a lot, and eventually what happens? They become lonely. They become lonely. They have no friends, not even family who come and visit them in their house. Similarly, it's not just that such a person becomes alone, but angels also leave such a person. Because when there's foul smell coming out of a person's body, out of a person's mouth all the time, then the angels, they don't like to stay in such an area, near such a person. But if a person stays clean, then what happens? He earns the love of Allah. And when he earns the love of Allah, then he will earn the love of everybody else. And if he does not remain clean, then nobody is going to like him. Nobody is going to like him. Generally, we don't pay attention to such things, but they're very important. Very important.